Okay, so the last part of Chapter 8, what you've learned so far with bad debt is definitely the hardest part of Chapter 8. Okay, so this part that we're talking about now, this is the easier part. Should not be difficult. And you've done it before in pieces. Okay? So for example, how do you record the fact that you are loaning someone money? You are loaning someone money. But if we're loaning someone money, are we going to call it the accounts receivable, or are we going to call it notes receivable? Because if we're loaning someone money, it's going to be a formal agreement to pay, right? We're not, accounts receivable is when you're selling something, or it's a bill that's a 30-day thing. If we're loaning someone money, they're probably not going to pay us back in 30 days. So the difference between accounts receivable and notes receivable is just like notes payable and accounts payable, which we'll deal with next chapter, in that a notes receivable is typically more than a year, but doesn't have to be. And it's a formal agreement to pay that usually includes interest. Whereas an accounts receivable doesn't typically include interest unless you don't pay it on time. So like your phone bill and your electric bill is an accounts receivable. You get 30 days to pay it, right? But there's no interest. But a notes receivable, like when my bill to my mortgage is with who's my mortgage with? U.S. Bank. I'm a notes receivable to them. They're my mortgage, but they're a notes receivable to them because I owe them money. And I owe them interest with it, correct? So my journal entry would be notes receivable and what? What am I giving you? Cash. All right. You guys have done that journal entry. That's not a new journal entry. So it's kind of like a promissory note, and the fact that we're giving money up front. And like I said, unlike, this usually includes some type of interest or charge. You guys remember this wonderful formula? You learned it back in the first beginning of the semester. Interest times rate times time, and time is over 12. Principal, not interest. Principal times rate times time. And remember, time cannot go over 12. So if you have an 18-month loan, you do 12 months this year and 6 months next year. So here's a couple of examples. If this is a January to December loan, it's 12 over 12. That's easy. If it's January to October, it's 10 over 12. And if it's November and December, it's 2 over 12. And you guys laughed at me when I told you this, but remember I said the biggest mistake on these interests, when you're calculating interest, is calculating the months wrong. So count on your fingers.
I still remember 7.
It's 7 months is June 1st. June 30th and July 1st is 6 months. And July 31st is 5 months. And I had a student at Wildwood yesterday who started laughing because he made that mistake when we did it back in, I don't know, chapter 4. And so because I'm counting on my fingers, and we did a problem, and he still made the mistake. I said, you need to maybe use your toes. I don't know. So you want to make sure you count on your fingers, you get the right thing. So we're looking at how do we calculate time. So let's look at this loan. This loan, we lent someone $100,000 on November 1st. All right. So we already have the journal entry on the board. We lent someone on November 1st, we lent someone $100,000. So we're going to debit notes receivable for $100,000 and credit cash. That's the only thing that happens on November 1st. We gave them money. Nothing else happened. Nothing else happens until the end of the year. Because what does the revenue recognition principle say? Remember the revenue recognition principle and the matching principle? Accrual-based accounting says what? What do we have to do?
We have to record the revenue when it happens.
Yes, we have to record revenue when it happens and expenses, but right now we're not talking about expenses. So, does this person owe me anything come December 31st? Yes. What does this person owe me?
Money.
Money. What kind of money?
Notes receivable.
No, not notes receivable. He already owes me notes. We recorded that. He owes me a notes receivable. What additional does he owe me?
Interest.
Interest. 2 months have gone by. He's not paying me the interest till he pays me back, which is normal with some notes, not a mortgage, but with other notes. So I need to figure out how much he owes me. So how do I figure out total interest? What's my interest rate? All right, so my principal is $100,000. My interest is 6%. So it's a 1-year note. So in the event that it was 1 year, 12 over 12, he would owe me $6,000. But has 1 year gone by? 2 months have gone by. So we'd actually take 2 over 12, which would give me what? I'll help out your math. If this was a month, it would be $500. So 2 months have gone by, which means he owes me $1,000. What is the journal entry to record the fact that he owes me $1,000, but he has yet to pay me? Kind of. We're going to make it very specific. Interest receivable of $1,000 on December 31st. What is the credit? Faja, you already said it. What do we have to recognize?
Revenue?
Revenue, and we're going to call it
Interest revenue?
interest revenue. We have to recognize revenue in the year that it was earned, in the period in which it was earned. We earned $1,000 of revenue, so we have to recognize it. Did we get it? No, so it's interest receivable. So this is the first two, notes receivable and cash, which is exactly what I have. Then they show our handy-dandy calculations of interest, which I already showed you. And they show you our journal entry. All right, so now it's October 31st. And I'm going to tell you right now, they do the journal entry different than I do. So I'm going to show you how Connect does the journal entry, because obviously when you do your homework, you got to do it that way. But I'm also going to show you how I learned it. All right, a lot of times you guys like the way I do it better, and that's fine. And sometimes you guys get confused and you just want to do it the way Connect does it. That's fine. So I'm going to show you both. First, we'll do it the way the book does it. All right, so the first thing that happens, October 31st, they're paying us back. We're going to start with the interest. How much total interest do they owe us? Total.
10 months interest.
Total interest. What did we say the total interest was? $6,000. So we're going to collect cash of $6,000. Correct? All right. They owe us $6,000 of interest. Now, what do we have to do to continue to recognize the interest and to equal the $6,000? Have we recognized all of the interest as revenue? No. So how much more do we need to recognize as revenue? $5,000. So interest revenue, $5,000. And that is because we're recognizing January through October. So that's 6,000 times 10 over 12, or 1,000 from 6,000. What is the remaining 1,000? I'll give you a hint. It's on the board. The interest receivable. We got to take it out of interest receivable because we could already recognize it. And then they're going to pay us back the note. So we do what? That one's easy. Cash and notes receivable. All right, so it's two different journal entries. They record the fact that they are paying us all the interest, which we have, cash, interest receivable, and interest revenue. Again, collecting the remainder of the interest, and then the journal entry to record the note. The way I learned it and the difference in the book is this. When someone pays you back, are they going to give you $6,000 and $100,000 separately, or are they going to give you $106,000? Right. So I collect cash of $106,000. Right? But in order to do that, I have a journal entry first that says interest receivable, interest revenue, $500,000. Just like I did here. All right? Because I have to recognize how much more interest. Then I have cash I have notes receivable, and I have interest receivable. 100,000, 6,000. So it's still 2 journal entries. The only difference is I recognize $5,000 of interest that they owe me, and then I collect the money. And the reason I like this way is because this loan could go on for 6, 7, 10 years, correct? So that means every year you're going to be doing this over and over and over again. And then in the last year you do this, and then you collect the money. Ashley? Okay. So Connect makes you do exactly what we just did on this overhead. It's going to make you recognize and collect the interest and then collect the cash. Yeah.
So we have the interest receivable and interest revenue, 1,000. Where is that 1,000? Why is it not showing up over there? Where is it?
Because I just recognized on October 31st, I recognize that we need 5,000 more, right? Here's your interest receivable.
So that $1,000 entry technically goes above that.
It's already happened. This has
Okay.
already happened.
Those are combined.
These are taken in place
I
with
get
this,
you.
right?
I'm with you.
And then I credit interest receivable here for this 5,000 and that 1,000. So yeah, to make this clear, this takes place with that. So these 2 things still happen. Then in place of this, you would do those 2. You would recognize interest receivable and interest revenue, and then you would collect the cash. I don't care which way you do it. Whichever one makes the most sense in your head is the one to go with. There's a couple things in this book that I do differently. I just point them out so that you can make whatever one makes the most sense to you.
Which one's better?
They do the exact same thing. So whichever one you think makes the most sense in your head, you use. Yeah. I had some people at Wildwood that just thought that one made more sense to them. Why would you collect cash twice, was the way they looked at it. There's people that think that one makes more sense. So whichever one in your head, I want you to go with that one. Okay, so then we get receivable turnover. What ratio have we already learned that sounds like this? Inventory, right. So average inventory. So inventory turnover said how quick do we buy and sell our inventory? And we wanted the first ratio to be high. The number of times we turn over inventory, we wanted to be high because then the days was low, right? Do we want this to be high? Do we want the number of times we tell people we collected our receivables 90 times in a year, which means the days would be low, which would mean we collect our receivables every 5 days. Wouldn't that be good? Yeah. So we want this to be high as well. So this is going to be that bouncing thing. I had someone at Wildwood again go, hey, wait a minute, we learned that. Well, we didn't learn this one. It just looks exactly the same as inventory turnover. The higher the ratio, the faster we are collecting our accounts receivable. We want to collect our accounts receivable as fast as possible. The slower we collect it, the longer we are going without the cash. And the longer we go without collecting the money, the better chance we have of never collecting the money. Right? If you go into a doctor's office or to get a procedure done at a hospital, they are always going to try to get you to pay first. Always. I have to constantly say, no, bill me. For 2 reasons. 1, I don't ever want to pay first. And 2, our insurance is so weird that they never get the price right. They never get it right. And I would just, and you, obviously most of you guys are on your parents, I would encourage you not to pay. Make them bill you. They have a very good reason for asking you. It's because medical reasons is the number 1 reason people go bankrupt. So you don't pay your medical
What do
bills.
they say when you say that to them?
They're just like, well, if you do this, I'll say, no, you guys always get it wrong, bill me. They cannot make you pay up front. All right? Now, smaller companies like Aspen Dental, my mother-in-law went to Aspen Dental. She falls a lot. She chipped a tooth. She was like, I'm not going to replace it. I'm like, you have to replace it. I was like, right there. And so she didn't want to go to our dentist. She didn't like our dentist. And she's scared to death. When she went to the dentist, it had been 15 years since she had been to the dentist. And my husband grew up the same way. When we got married, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. And so he goes to the dentist all the time now. But he didn't go because she didn't go. I mean, it kind of is one of those things. If your mom doesn't like to go, guess who doesn't go? The kids, right? So she went to Aspen Dental, and they would not treat her if she didn't pay. But that's a different type of facility. If you go to a hospital or a doctor, for procedure, they will do it and bill you, as long as you have insurance. She didn't have dental insurance, so they made her pay up front. So then you put it on a credit card, because then you can refuse the charges if something goes wrong. So don't pay. But doctors want you to because they want to collect. I pay every doctor bill. I just wait till I get my thing from the insurance company to make sure it's the right amount. Right. So you need this to be fast. So what are we going to look at? We want that days to collect again. Days to collect makes a lot more sense. So we're going to take sales revenue and we're going to divide it by average net receivables. Again, it's really important, average net receivables. If you put ending, you're going to get the wrong answer. When you guys do the annual report, which I might put out there Thursday, I got to think about that. It needs to go out for my online, so I might get it out for you guys. I usually give you 2 weeks to do it, so I'll get it out there soon. One of the biggest things you do wrong is average. You don't do average. You do ending, and then you guys lose a half a point. So instead of getting a perfect, you end up with like 38. Which, is that a big deal? No, but it's really bad when the reason you're not getting a 40 out of 40 is because you didn't do average. So let's look at a couple. So again, 10 times, is that good? Well, it's 36 and a half days. Is 36 and a half days good? It depends. I kind of go, and Emma kind of, It does depend, but overall, in today's world, that's probably not bad. Do you want it faster? Yeah, but that's probably not bad. All right, the next thing we have is something called benchmarks or comparison to benchmarks. So credit terms. Credit terms are what companies sell on. They say, hey, we'll sell to you for a length of, how long, and they do it by looking at what other companies do. That's how we got, I erased it, but with bad debt, that's kind of how we got percentages. What do other companies have? What's my history? What are other companies doing? In the audit world, when I audited, when you start with companies, you go out and you look at what other companies are doing and what other audit companies are doing. That's how you compare and what you consider a good threshold. Benchmarks of what other people are doing as well. So that's what you're looking at. So let's look at some benchmarks. And are these good benchmarks? We got Vanity Fair, Post, and Apple. Are these three companies the same? Vanity Fair is a clothing company. It's not just a magazine. Someone at Wild was like, that's a magazine. It is a magazine. But Vanity Fair is a clothing line also. It's Vanity Fair something. I don't know what the C stands for. Post, what is Post? It's food. Yeah, it's food. And then Apple, obviously, is Apple. Look at the dollar amounts. You could never compare these companies without ratios. That's the wonderful thing about ratios. Right? So Vanity Fair collects every 38 days, and then Post and Apple are right around 27 days. If you compare them, it would make it look like Vanity Fair is not doing as well. But why do you think 38 days might be reasonable for Vanity Fair? Because it's clothing. What do you think Vanity Fair has to do in order to pay or for people to pay them back? They're selling clothing, huh? The people that they sell the clothing to have to do what? Well, Vanity Fair doesn't sell directly. Vanity Fair sells their clothing to other companies, right? What does that company have to do before they can pay Vanity Fair back?
So
They have to sell it. So it might be reasonable that it's a little bit higher. Post is food. Are the companies that buy the food going to sell it faster? Yeah. And Apple is technology, which sells faster also. So it would be reasonable, those two would be a lower than 30, which is very good, and Vanity Fair would be higher. So you got to look at what you're looking at. All right, factoring, this has been on the final. Last time it was not on the final. See the advantage of the person that writes the final? I took it off last spring. It could be back on again. Factoring is not collections. Okay, it is not the same thing. That was an option on the multiple choice question. It is not collections. Factoring is when you need cash now because people haven't paid you. You have an offer, you have a deal, you have something in which you need cash. So what you do is you take some of your accounts receivable and you sell them. There are companies out there that will buy them. So let's say you have $100,000 worth of accounts receivable. You know you're not going to get 100 because we talk about bad debt, but you think you're going to get 95. You sell them to somebody for 90. The company that buys it is willing to pay 90 because they know they're going to get 95. They just made $5,000. You're willing to sell it for 90 because you need the cash to go do whatever it is you want. So, and maybe that's not a great scenario, only $5,000, maybe you sell it for $85,000. But you're willing to take a loss because you need cash to go do a deal, or you owe money or something. And the person buying it's willing to buy it because they know they're going to make money on it. So that's what factoring is, all right? You receive cash by selling your accounts receivable. And then credit card sales. Credit card sales or anything else, and notice they say PayPal. They're not mentioning all the other things that are out there. And there are so many. Vimo, I heard, is going away. I thought I heard that. One of them. It might not be Vimo. It might be one of the other ones. I mean, Apple Pay, you just put your card on. You go to Costco now, you can just put your card on the thing. You don't even have to swipe it. You just lay it on top. I use PayPal a lot. I like it because I don't have to do anything. I just sign in. I don't have to remember my credit card number. It gives me the option of paying with my debit card, or if I don't know if I have the money, I can put it on a credit card and I don't have to have anything with me. I've used the other ones too to pay people. I like being able to send money that way. It's kind of nice. But those are all considered cash. Credit cards are not what we're talking about in this chapter. Credit cards are cash, and yes, there is a fee, but why are most companies willing to pay the fee? Because they get their money now. Right, and the bigger the company, the littler the fee. Walmart might be, and I'm saying might because I have no idea, probably the company that has the smallest credit card fee. Or tied, because they're one of the biggest company. I bet they're probably around 2%. Maybe. Credit card fees usually range somewhere between 3% and 5%. So Walmart is probably 2 or less. Because what Walmart can do is they can go to those companies and say, I'm not going to pay that. What would Visa do if Walmart didn't take Visa? See, and Costco got bigger and bigger. Costco didn't used to take anything except for their credit card and a debit card. They now take Visa because their Costco card is now a Visa card. Walmart still only takes Sam's still only takes the Sam's card and a debit card. That's it. They don't take anything else. But Sam's can do that if they want to, right? You go into Walmart, though, you can use any credit card. I cannot guarantee Discover. But there's some companies that don't take Discover. They're not willing to pay that fee. The bigger the company, the lower the fee they're willing, and that's because they have purchasing power. They have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to pay that. And then the company that has the credit card is saying, I really want Walmart to take Discover. Right. And that's why when you go into some places, you look on the door, they'll say Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and now they're almost all taken everywhere. But there's a long time, a lot of companies didn't take American Express because their fee was high. A lot of places didn't take Discover. If you have a Discover card, you get a special line at Six Flags. I don't know why they have a deal with them, but they do. And if you get your own entry line, and normally it's not a problem. We actually went to Six Flags Sunday only to activate our passes for next year. I have never seen this, but there was the biggest line to get tickets, like to physically buy tickets to get into Fright Fest. Joey looked at me and he goes, yeah, we're out. We're not doing this. I don't care if we don't get free parking because that's why you basically have to validate it. I said, that's not us. We get to walk in. That's buying a ticket. He goes, why would someone stand in that line to buy a ticket to Fright Fest? I'm like, I don't know. I think it was Bring a Friend Day or something, and so you had to stand in that line. I can't figure it out. We just went in, used our meal pass, and walked out. And Joey had to shoot the $10 basketball thing. So he won, so I guess that's okay. All right, let's go ahead.